Over to you, Prof.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another CEO series on another Thursday afternoon. Thank you for spending your next 1 to 1.5 hours with us. We promise you another good session, another very interactive session. And today with us, we have a prominent guest, Encik Jamaludin Bujang, who is from Gobi Partners, and I'm sure he's going to bring a lot of insights and experience to share with us. And also with us, as normal, Dash, our entrepreneur in residence, who will moderate the session, and we hope that the session will bring you to new heights in terms of knowledge and skills that are required in the context of entrepreneurship. We've gone through a very good journey thus far, which started in around May, providing all these series of activities and live webinars. And I hope you have enjoyed it thus far. There are more to come in the future as well. We thank everyone who has been part of this, and also the staff behind the scenes who have arranged for this as part of Project Enterprise. Yeah. So Encik Jamaludin, I welcome you to our APU Live webinar series, and we appreciate the time taken this afternoon to share your insights and your experience with us. And I leave you now in the rightful hands of Dash for the next 1 to 1.5 hours. Take it away, and all the best to everyone.
Thank you so much, Prof. Vinesh, as usual. Prof. Vinesh, always introduces the guests, and we are always appreciative of our guests coming to Asia Pacific University. A very warm welcome to my dear old friend, can I say old?
Not that old.
Not that old, Mr. Jamaludin Bujang, charming as usual, and had his beard trimmed. And someone said on Facebook today that two guys with legit beards, right? So everyone, my name is Dash, and I'm the entrepreneur in residence at Asia Pacific University. And at Asia Pacific University, they have a huge initiative called Enterprise at APU. The purpose of Enterprise at APU is to create the startup mindset in students. We believe that everyone should be entrepreneurial, though not everyone will go and start companies. So there are 3 missions to Enterprise at APU. The first mission is we want to create what we call anti-fragile young people. Anti-fragile young people are people who will thrive in chaos, in change, and in uncertainty. So, there's no point having all the degrees in the world if you can't thrive and navigate uncertainty. The world is an uncertain place. Secondly, we want to build the entrepreneurial gene pool in people who are coming to the university. And when I say gene pool, I also include the academics, the lecturers, the staff, as well as the students. And finally, to those who want to launch companies, wants to launch startups, we want to help you build meaningful and sustainable startups. To this end, Enterprise at APU has put together, firstly, a series of inspirational talks, which is basically Enterprise Wednesday that happens on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month, where we bring in startup entrepreneurs to share their war stories, to share how they got their scar tissues in building their startups. And we've had several series since May. And then every month we bring CEOs and CTOs and CFOs from companies to speak to you and to build a robust worldview, to help you form a robust worldview through interactions with them. And we have had several C-level people, and today we have Encik Jamaludin Bujang, who is the Managing Director of Gobi Ventures Malaysia, who was the CEO of Malaysian MAVCAP, MoF company, as well as he has vast experience in in the trenches in the startup ecosystem, dirtying his hands, investing in companies, looking at which companies he should invest in. So is hugely beneficial for you. And apart from the inspiration, you can't just become a startup through inspiration. We also have what we call the ideas bootcamp, where it's you come in and test your ideas and see whether it works. And if that works, then you progress into an 8-week idea accelerator program where we stress test your idea. It's not easy, but we stress test your idea there. And finally, we take you to a venture building phase where we bring in a lot of external mentors and industry experts. So that's in a nutshell a comprehensive, holistic view of enterprise at APU. So now I will let Mr. Jamaludin Bujang take over. JB, I'll keep calling you JB. And a very good
Please.
afternoon to you. Thank you very much. I hope you are I hope you are not. I wouldn't say enjoying, but in some way thriving during this pandemic and lockdown. How have you been spending your time together? I mean, spending your time doing this
At home, 100%.
at home, 100%, working from
Yeah.
home.
No, I guess everyone is just can't wait to go back to the office.
You
It
think
does
so?
make a
Yeah.
difference, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, we
So
just wait for the time.
yeah. So take it away. So you have a presentation for us to show.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
So
Thank you, Dash. Let me just put up the slides. Have you seen it
yeah,
yet? Okay, hold on.
I have not seen it. Yeah. So have you been indulging in durians?
A bit. I'm not really
Oh, fan.
kaki in that sense. I have it once in a while, but that's about all. I know there are people who are really crazy after that, right? But luckily I'm not. So, which is good. Which is good.
Which is good.
But I think we're lucky this year because you can get a good good durian at
Good
better
harvest
prices
this
than
time.
before.
Very
Yeah,
good
yeah,
prices.
which is
And
good. Yeah.
you must be cycling also, quite a bit of cycling, right?
Oh yes, I do. I still do that. I try to do as much as I can. Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about whether it's a good time to start a startup, and let's talk about what you're going to show us today. I'm looking forward to the next few hours. I mean, not
Right.
few, 1 hour, 15 minutes or something with you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try
All
my
right,
best. Okay.
go for it, JB.
All right. Thank you, Dash. Do you
Okay.
see the slides here?
Yes, I do. I will be off the screen while you talk through, and then I'll come
Okay.
back later. Okay. Cheers.
All
Enjoy.
right. All right. Thank you very much. But before that, before I begin, I'd like to thank APU for inviting me here. Thank you, Prof. Janita and Prof. Dinesh. It's my first time presenting here to, I believe, APU. Well, it's APU. I've done it with Dash together last time at the UCAM to master student. I believe the audience are here mostly students from APU, right? I don't know how many. Dash, do you have any idea how many of them are here now? Or will be?
So, I have no visibility of that, but
Okay.
what happens is all this goes into the portal where the students will view it. But I think,
Right.
oh, there are 111,
Okay.
JB. There are
Okay. That's good.
111 observing, not viewing.
Right.
And then it will go into the portal, and then they all will view it several times. And many
Right.
of them are required to write what you call that reflection piece on all these presentations. Yeah.
Right.
So you will have a lot of audience coming, but 111 on
Okay.
a Thursday afternoon is quite amazing.
Okay.
Congratulations to the students for being here. Thank you, and ask away any questions after JB has spoken. Yeah. All right, JB,
Yes,
take it
please.
away. Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you. Yes, please. Don't stop me. Well, please stop me if you have any questions. All right. Let's just start off with introduction as usual. Let me just introduce myself first. My name is Jamaludin Bujang. I'm the managing director of Gobi Partners. I'm not sure whether most of you are familiar with Gobi Partners. I'll go through that in the next few slides. Today we're going to talk about, of course, Gobi as an introduction, and then this presentation is skewed more to to address a question on, is it a good time to start up, right? Is it time to launch a startup? We'll go through that. I don't want to make it very heavy. There are heavier slides before, but this has been filtered down a lot just to suit the the audience. And there are a lot of people with a lot of ideas out there. So this just coming. This is a viewpoint from a VC. I think Dash also mentioned that you inviting CEOs from startups and all that, and they may be touching on other areas. They also view things slightly differently than people like us in the VC view things. Could be different, but it's good. It's good to learn as much as you can from all angles, right? Okay, let's go on. Oh yeah, before that, so yeah, we're going to talk about factors. We're going to talk about what's needed for you to become to launch a startup, and of course, not all things can go right. Things can go wrong as well. I think we're going to focus a bit on what can go wrong. Things go right, you'll be rich after that. Things will be will be good after that, hopefully. Next, okay, let's on Gobi Partners. You can see from the slide here, we are in yellow, in the background in yellow. We've been around, and we've been around since 2002. So by next year will be 20 years. Gobi started off in China. They have 3 offices in China now: Shanghai, Beijing, and I would say Hong Kong as well as part of China. And they started off in 2002, and 2015 they came here and set up an office here in Malaysia, right? Now we have offices in Southeast Asia region. We have office in Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City, of course KL. KL is the center of Southeast Asia for Gobi. We have offices in Singapore, Jakarta, Manila, right? And when we say that we have an office in all these cities, we have people there as well. So it's not just a virtual office, but also office with people. So we are basically on the ground. We are really there on the ground, understanding what's going on in the market, in the entrepreneurship space, in tech and all that. So there are other model by VCs where they just come and open up an office in Singapore, and once in a while they fly in people in out to all these cities to handle deals. But they only have one office. But we spend a lot more resources, I guess, to be there on the ground, present ourselves and be, hopefully we can listen. We are close to the market, right? So that's Southeast Asia, and our strategy is actually to invest in emerging and underserved tech markets, and that's the reason why we've expanded ourselves to cover the Middle East as well. We have an office in Riyadh now. It's being managed by a Saudi. We are opening up an office, thinking of opening up an office in UAE. And 2 years ago, we opened office in Pakistan. So now we have, so the strategy you can see from there, it's, we have China, and then we spread it out to connect, to Southeast Asian economies. And now we're going west to reach Middle Asia, what they call South Asia, which is Pakistan is part of that, and to the east, to the west, into Middle East, right? So all this over the years, in the last 19 years, we have 13 locations. We have invested in more than 270 companies already. And we have set up about 14 funds already. And all in all, if we add it all up, we have managed about 1.2 billion worth of VC funds. Okay. Moving on. So what we've done in the last 20 years, 19, 20 years, we've been investing. That's our job as a VC. Our job is, as a VC, you do 3 things basically. You raise money, right? And you invest that money, and you exit you sell that investment and you return back the money to the people who give you the money earlier. Okay, so we do three things, and we invest in countries as well as in verticals. Here we'll highlight about 9 verticals that we invested in. You know, AI, big data, you know, e-commerce enablers, fintech, logistics, marketplace, media, social commerce, UAV, which is basically drone, and many others as well. Again, I think some of you may be familiar with some of the companies, especially here in Malaysia. You can see from the list here, these are all the companies from China, Pakistan, and Middle East as well, right? Some are very small, some are very, very big, and we have, presence in all these verticals. You know, like Malaysia, for example, you probably have heard of Qasem, Aerodyne, Vana maybe, right? And there are many others as well. Malaysian alone, we have about almost 30 companies already. Okay, some of the big companies here is, you know, Qasem. I don't know whether you follow the news. Qasem is one of the well, if you don't consider Grab as a Malaysian company, then Qasem is actually the first truly Malaysian unicorn. A unicorn is a company that is worth $1 billion, right? Qasem now is worth about almost 1.5 billion. You know, if you look at, you want to understand what billion means, is it's about 4 billion ringgit. And if you look at the stock market, you know, Bursa Malaysia, companies that are worth more than 4 billion ringgit, there are only about 80 companies only out of the hundreds of companies that you listed. So these are pretty big companies by size and operation and reach, right? So Qasem has been very, very successful. They started off 5 years ago, you know, and the growth has been tremendous since then. Another company I want to highlight here is Airlift, in the logistics on the left column there, logistics, Airlift. Airlift, they just announced, this is a company that we invested in Pakistan. They just made an announcement yesterday. They received a funding of 85 million. You know, which they have raised before that another 30 million before that. So all in all, they have raised about 110 million in the space of 2 years. This company has been around, what, 2 or 3 years. We are one of the early investors in the company. The company now is worth about 200 million US. And, you know, give 3 or 5 years from now, we have no doubt at all this company will become another unicorn, especially in Pakistan. It is definitely the biggest company in Pakistan now. Aerodyne is another company that you may have heard of before this. Aerodyne is a drone service provider. Of course, they started off here in Malaysia. They have 400 staff, but they have a presence in more than 30 countries right now. They are the second biggest drone service provider in the world now, and you know, so they are going for, they have presence in obviously in Malaysia. They have in the US, in South America, Australia, and all that, right? Another company I want to highlight here is Airwallex. Airwallex is one of the companies that Gobi invested about 4-5 years ago when they were very, very small. They were set up by students from China who studied in Australia. They started very small, but they were lucky that the services that they launched were very, very highly demanded, and they went to China and raised tons. They raised a lot of money. Now they are worth about $2 billion already. In fact, they are in the process of raising another round of money, which will bring the valuation to 5 billion pretty soon. Okay. WeLab is another big one that's based in Hong Kong. Eureka is in the top left, is more into AI, and big data services. Again, so these are the companies that, so we have a very simple companies like e-commerce enablers like Avana, to a more sophisticated companies like Eureka in the AI, and then in fintech. Okay. Oh yeah, I just want to go back. Another company that I want to highlight is it's called Wave Optics. It's a bottom left under others. Wave Optics is they created technology on this is a wearable optics. I don't know if you've heard of Google Glass. So this is something like that. And recently they were acquired by Snap. Um, if you know Snap, I don't use Snap, but it's been acquired by Snap in a deal about 200 million. So it's quite big companies now. They're based in the UK. So moving on, so we were talking about, is it good time to launch a startup, right? You can ask that question at any time, and the answer is always yes, right? Because there's no specific time for you to set up to launch a startup. And if you look at how the economy grow, right? You look at it as a pie, and you want to make that pie bigger, right? And using the same material, what happens is you'll begin to see as it expanded cracks, right? And that cracks is actually it's actually something that you have to fill in, correct? And this is where, in terms of the economic fabric, as it expands, they will create a gap where it has to be filled in, because you have to connect from one fabric to another fabric. So this is a new thing that's arise from that pie, and this is the new startup that you have to start filling in, right? So it happens at all the time, unless the economy shrink, and then of course a lot of business start to go down, right? But if you talk about company expanding, economy expanding, there's always time for you to fill in that gap. So your job is actually to find out what is that gap and how you're going to fill in, why, and how that gap is being filled in by a relevant, in the case of pie, what material you want to put in, right? Okay, so basically, in terms of where we're looking in is, we're looking at the 5 factors here. Things that help you to launch a startup. You must have a good supporting business environment. Of course, funding is very important. The consumers, because that's where you get your money from. And you must have talent as well, because that's where you want to build a company. So you want to hire people so they have the talent. And then, of course, all of us here, no matter what country you're living in, you're affected by government policies, right? So these are the 5 basic factors supporting the launching of a startup. Okay. Touching on number 1, on mature business environment. Malaysia has been very lucky. Malaysia has been ranked number 2 in Southeast Asia in terms of industry enablers. What it means is, we have a right policy and condition and environment to create business, to start and to expand, and even to attract people to come to Malaysia, right? We've been ranked 12 in terms of ease of doing business. Okay, we've been ranked 11th in terms of top 100 emerging startup ecosystem. Out of 100, we're number 11, so we are quite good. We are really at the top quartile here, right? And in terms of KL estimated startup ecosystem value 15 billion. I don't know how they come up with that number. That, relatively speaking, by Malaysian standard, of course, is big. But if you look in the bigger picture, of course, it's not really that big, but it's something good to start with. Okay. Now let's focus yourself to the diagram on the right. People doing this survey, want to, what does it mean by industry enablers in Southeast Asia? When they did the survey, and they measure a few factors. Let's go through one by one. GDP per capita, all right, that will show you the size and the ability of the economy to generate output, right? So that's GDP per capita. Gross capital formation is second factor. This is amount of financial resources that you have as a country, right? And thirdly, it is disposable income per household. Disposable income, I think I'm sure you've learned in school, is the amount of money that you can freely spend on other things beyond the basic needs, right? Bank deposit reserves, another factor that they're taking into account. This is basically to measure the availability of capital that you can tap from the banking and from the economic, from the banking system. Capital invested in telecom. Why telecom? Telecom is very important because, you know, we live in a world now where, you know, this may not be relevant 30, 40 years ago, right? But now telecom is needed. It's part of basic rights even, right? You need that for communication. We need that for, even now we're talking over digital network, right? Without that, it's there's no way we can do this, right? So investment in telecom is very, very important and very easy actually for people to, you know, if you want to go out and invest in a country, one of the few things that you can look into a country is how long is the highways being built, and also how good is the telecom system, right? Forget about any other things first. These are the first few things that foreign investor, when they want to invest in your country, these are the things that they look into, okay? Another area they're looking into is also possession of digital devices. You know, look, almost everyone now we see here have a phone. Some people even have 2 or 3, right? And the important thing about this is digital devices is actually this is what drives digital services, digital, e-commerce and stuff like that. You know, 2 years ago, you know, for those people who never rely on ordering food from Food Panda, from Grab, and now they do that. I've never done that before COVID. Now I've done that. I'm sure a lot of people have gone through the same experience as well, right? Because back then, 2 years ago, before COVID, we thought that, you know, there's no way you want to go order food. You want to go and feel, you want to have to a restaurant and pick and choose, right? And you want to see, you want to touch, and you want to eat it while it's still hot, right? But now it's no longer the case, and you know, it's now you begin to accept the fact that, hey, you can, yeah, it's not bad, you can order and you can reheat and eat at home with your family, right? So again, it's a change in culture. So maybe hopefully this thing will remain. Chances are will remain, will continue to be there. Of course, people after this will go back to restaurant, eat a restaurant, no doubt, but you've already got used to the, you know, the second alternative, okay? Another thing that they measure is global competitiveness index. You know, this is relating to skills and education. Of course, it's very important. The level of education in the country is what drives the economy, correct? And they also look at trade per capita, you know, how much your country generate and the excess you go and export. And then of course you want to track the import as well. So you will see, you know, what you can create and what you cannot create, right? And this is where on things that you can create or you cannot create, and you know, it drives you to think about, hey, you know, rather than importing, why don't create this here, right? So it gives the opportunity for entrepreneurs to create stuff, right? So trade per capita is very important as well. And the last thing they look into is global competitiveness index in terms of transport. I touched this before. Transport is very, very important. So that is, so these are the 7 or 8 things that they use to measure industry enablers, index for each country. And if you look at that, Singapore, so Malaysia ranked number 2, Singapore is ahead of us. They always better than us in any one of these, components. But we're still ahead. We're still ahead with the rest. Let's hope that as we progress, as the economy progress, we maintain this position or probably even do better than this. One advantage that we have over Singapore is definitely because we have more people. We have more than 30 million people. Singapore has 5, but of course the economy is more internationalized compared to ours. But we have people here, and if you imagine, the income of people start to go up, you times that by 30 million people, it can grow very fast. Okay. So let's pray that it's not going to come down. We maintain this position or even improve it as we go forward. So that's about business environment and infrastructure. The second factor is about funding. You may have the idea to set up a startup company, but even at the end of the day, you need funding to set up your company and acquire acquire customers, right? Now, I think Malaysia has been very lucky again in this case. If you look at the bigger picture, Southeast Asia as a whole, in terms of funding made available in 2020, is already almost $8 billion. It's quite a big number. And Malaysia's share is 80 million, right? On our own, it's 80 million. It's maybe big, but if you compare to that 7.7 billion, it's not big at all. So funding can still be an issue here in Malaysia, and let's hope that this number will increase. We want to get more institutions like VC, and other funding institutions to come here to Malaysia and pour money into the industry. Okay. Statistics from 2017 to 2020, about more than 400 companies been funded, by all these entities. And in terms of number of VCs and PEs here in Malaysia is 127. I think that's the last number by the industry association, but I think active players is probably about 30 of them. Okay. Look at the diagram. These are the companies that you may have heard or familiar with. This chart shows you the amount of funding that has gone to Malaysia, to Southeast Asian companies from 2017 to 2020. In the last 3 years, that funding has been more than 8 billion US. Okay. What you see there, Grab, Gojek, Tokopedia, Traveloka, GoPay, Bukalapak, C. These are all billion-dollar, unicorns. These are billion-dollar companies that have been around. C, if you're not familiar, it started off as Garena. It got listed, changed the name to C. Shopee is part of them. You may have heard of Shopee. So Shopee is part of them. In terms of who are there in the industry, who are the leading VCs and PEs in Malaysia? Cradle, I'm sure you've heard of them. Capti is one of the private sector company, VC. Sunsea Capital is part of a Sunway. TBV Capital. iLabs, again, another company by Sunway. Axiata is another company. I'm sure you've heard of them. They invested in a fund called Axiata Digital Innovation Fund, managed by MAVCAP. And MAVCAP, of course, has been around for 20 years already. And Gobi Partners, we've been around here in Malaysia for the last 5 or 6 years. Okay. Okay. Third factors. Because we're talking about consumers here. They are the one who fund your projects, right? Eventually, right? Because you sell a product, you sell to them. But we're talking here about digital consumers. Okay. If you look at the right, number of smartphone penetration here in Malaysia, we're almost 100%. You can see it's 100% already. And that has been growing steadily since in the mid-90s. So basically, these are your ready, you're already customers when you start up with startup. This is your target market. And the thing about high smartphone penetration here in Malaysia, right? I think you want to also check, what was the driver for that. Anyone who has anyone who have phone, I'm sure almost every one of them would have social media account, right? Either Facebook and or Twitter, Instagram, and many others, right? You can, for Instagram, for example, not only people do communicate from one another, but also people sell stuff on Instagram, right? So that is one of the channels that you do to access your consumers. So social media indicator is very, very important if you want to go to another country to launch your tech startup in that country. One of the few things that you need to check is how high is the active social media user that they have in that country. Okay, apart from the number of phones that they have. Okay. On the fourth factor, talent. You setting up a company, you have yourself, but you still have to hire people, right? The people that you hire must have talent, right? And we are lucky here in Malaysia. We have more than 10,000 data professionals. APU is one of the universities that provide these talents to the market. Good job. I was just told that APU has more than 10,000 students, which is actually very big. 3,000 of them are in the tech, so which is good. There are other universities as well, but we're hoping that all these talents, when you go out of the university and graduate, don't start thinking about working for people, but start thinking of starting up your own startup. Okay. Looking at numbers again, there are more than 8,000 cybersecurity experts here in Malaysia, and more than 1.2 million students in IT-related courses, and about 16 premier digital tech institutes. Of course, one of them is APU. Okay. So talent is very important. Moving on, policy support. Now we cannot, we like I said earlier, we operate in the country. We are bound by the policies that are introduced by the people, by the politicians, basically, right? By the administration. I think Malaysia has been this has been known from last time, from long time ago. Malaysia is very pro-business in terms of policies. We operate in a very open economy, and that actually has provided the support to Malaysian startups. Okay. We touched earlier about funding. There's Cradle, there's Penjana Capital. That Penjana Capital was launched last year by the government. This is just to provide capital to VCs and institutions so they can provide funding to all the startup companies. And we have Accelerator as well, that's run by both public and private institutions. MDEC is one of them. Magic is another one of them. Dash and I were very actively involved in Magic last time in their activities to create buzz, to promote entrepreneurship, encourage students, bring in people from outside, courses and stuff like that, to promote Malaysia as well to the world. And of course, a regulatory side, the government, is playing a big role in that. The SC, Bank Negara Malaysia, and I'm sure you've heard of sandboxes. There are fintech sandboxes, there are drones sandboxes, there are EV sandboxes. There's so many of them. So these are regulatory initiative promoted by the government to encourage ideas to start playing around and test the ideas in these sandboxes to eventually hoping that you'll be successful in testing your product and introduce to the market. Okay. Okay. Moving on. If you have any questions, you can ask questions now if you want, but we can do that later as well if you want. I just have a bit more to go. Now we talk about you want to launch a startup, and anyone can do that, right? But generally, you have to think about a few factors. I've listed here about nine factors for you to start thinking about it. First, of course, you must have an idea. Ideas, of course, is you must solve industry pain. What's the pain that you're trying to solve? Okay. Second is a product. So you have the idea now. So what kind of product you want to come up with? Is it gonna, is it gonna be geared towards solving that problem or not? Okay. Timing. We talk about timing. Timing is always important. Are we ready to launch now? Are we too ahead of the market? There are cases where the product is way ahead of the market, and then they do well and they go bust, and suddenly a similar product come to the market, and launch and become successful. And you want to know the market size as well. Is there a market for it? Can you support that? You have to identify which segment you want to focus on. Another thing is scalability. After you start selling your product and all that, you want to know if you can scale or not, whether you can scale fast or not, right? Because you need to grow, right? It's a product. You want to have a product which you can scale, which you can expand, you can grow faster. Okay. And the character of the founder as well is very important. Is he resilient? Is he patient? Is he acceptable to changes and stuff? Okay. Funding, of course, we talked about it earlier, very important. And another important thing is team. Okay, you must have a good team because you work in a small setup. In a small startup, you probably have about anywhere between 5 to 20 people. It's a very small team. One person is sick, the rest will get affected. So you work as one team. So it's very important for you to choose your team members. Okay, and the final factor to consider is mentor. Whether you have mentor to help you directly or indirectly. Okay. This is just a case study for Kasem. We say Kasem here because we invested in the company. We talked about product earlier. When they first started, they talk about online platform to sell used car. Back then, 5-6 years ago, no one was thinking about this, right? Can you sell a car to a car dealer using a online platform? Last time you have to go visit one by one, to sell your car. After visiting 2 or 3 times, you give up. You just take whatever price that you can get. But now you have an option to use that platform. Now the second-hand car dealer will bid for your product. So again, this is a brilliant idea. Come up with these people 5-6 years ago, and now you can see that they have done very well. So there's a market acceptance for that. And we're talking about, timing. Back then, like I said, 5 years ago, nobody was even there to think about that. So these guys brief themselves, and it's proven that idea works. And they also realized that the market was big, 55 billion US in Southeast Asia online car market. And in terms of mentor, they've received a lot help from people outside the company, that including Gobi and our fellow investors as well, to help them grow. They were scalable. Kasem has more than 100,000 transactions annually. I think it's more than that by now already. And they're also expanding to Indonesia. We talked about team earlier. Yeah, you must have a team who can work well with you. Eric may be an entrepreneur with a business background, but we have a partner from the technical background, so that complement each other. Funding, yes, they got the funding. Thank God, and that's simply because the idea is executable by the VC who provide the funding. Okay, character. Yeah, these people has been around. They have failed before. they were still around, and now they've proven to be successful. Okay. And idea, I think you should start with idea. Idea is about selling car, right? Selling second-hand car, and who knows, in the future they will be selling brand new cars, right? Nothing stopping them. I think I've come to my last slide here. When you want to you want to set up a startup company, of course things can work. You always want things to work, but things can go wrong as well, right? In fact, 90% of startups fail. Okay, these are the facts that you have to accept. 90% of startups fail, and 10% will fail within 1 year. You can see the factors here. There's about 10 of them. Of course, ran out of cash is the biggest factor. Even though they managed to raise capital in the beginning, but they failed to raise it subsequently, that may cause the company to fail. Okay. And there are people who said who create a product, but there's no market for it. Actually, I find it a bit surprising, right? But apparently that's what people think. They got out competed. Your competitor is faster than you, they're smarter than you, they overcome you. Okay. Your business model, flawed business model. Maybe the market was asking for pay per use, but you're charging them on subscription basis. Okay. There are, of course, there are legal challenges, regulatory and all that. Suddenly you are one time you're allowed to do this, but after that you're not allowed. So you get affected by that as well. Pricing and cost issue, these are very common issues. That is why very important for startup to think about getting funding, continuous funding from from the funder. Not having the right team, another one. Product miss time, we talked about it earlier. Poor product you can improve, but I think the founder must realize that how to improve the product. Okay. This harmony among the team and investors, this happen quite regularly actually. Sometimes we have a very strong founder who's not even willing to listen to the team or to the VC. Eventually the relationship goes bad, and the company go bust. And you try after that you try to do something new, pivot gone bad, same thing. You're trying something new, your product is not successful, you go again, try a new product, it doesn't get successful, you try again to the next one, it doesn't work. So I guess it's more like the person's failure rather than the product, because you must eventually you will come to one product which if you've been very, very careful about it, you will come to a product which satisfy that, right, for the market. And finally, they're burnt out. With cases like that, I've come across this before. The company is not able to, to find funding, to continue selling, and eventually the founder went back to Australia and settled down there. Okay. All right, so that was it. We are available on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, so connect to us. You can send us questions if you want. We are more than happy to entertain people from this media outlet. Thank you, Dash. Now, go back to you.
Hey, JB, that's power-packed slides, man. In fact, I've just sat down and taken photos. I wish you should send them to me. It's amazing slides. A lot of information.
Oh, really?
There.
Okay, share with me.
Packed. No, share it with me. Packed with information. A lot of data in there, and a lot of insights that you have shared with all of us. Many years of insights. And thanks for the case study of the Qasim. Tell us a little bit more about Qasim, and then I'll maybe pull out. I know they bought 19.9% of iCar from Catcha, became the unicorn, first unicorn. Why did you all? And you said that they went in timing wise when you can't sell cars. There's no platform. And then, it's something 5 years ago, it's something new.
Yep.
People will go shop by shop to sell their cars. I mean, that's how we all sold our cars, and the guys will treat us like dirt, right? And
Yeah.
now they turn the table. Now they turn the table around and say, "Bloody bid for my car," So that's
Yes.
what I maybe should do for my car, And
Yeah.
why did you all see at that time that it will succeed?
Yeah, Gobi was one of the first investors in Kasem. I think the other earlier investor is 500 as well,
Ah,
Nakaili.
500. Hey, I
Yeah,
didn't see 500 startups in your slide as one of the active VCs.
yeah, we should be. Yeah, it should be. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'll improve on that later. Yeah, they're
yeah.
one of the in fact the most prolific, VC in the country. In fact,
Yes,
yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, coming back to Kasem, yeah, I think because those guys realized that, you know, um, uh, selling cars, selling your existing cars, you're prone to getting, cheated. I'm not sure whether cheated is a word, but you don't get the maximum value from selling your car back then. I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
you've gone through this before, right? You go and buy
Yes.
durian, and suddenly you pay, you thought it's good and all that, you eat. After you come back and say, is it worth paying 60 ringgit per kg for that, right? So these are
Mm,
things, same thing. When you go and sell your car, and suddenly you begin to ask, wait a minute, I don't know whether the dealer quoted me a right, a right price or not, right? And when you have a same car, your friend has the same car selling at a higher price. So those are the things that these guys saw that, and then they say, hey, wait a minute, rather than you go and visit, one or two or three or four car dealers, which is very time consuming, and the only time you can do that is over the weekend, right? Um, and why not make the car dealer comes to you, right?
mm,
So this is where the platform is very important. So, you know, I just realized now, in this market, right? Imagine whatever product you come up with, you want to sell on the market, right? Or services. What's the average price of that product, right? If you want to create media, for example, by subscription, maybe you have to pay 10 ringgit. Yeah, Spotify, for example, how much you pay? 5, 10 ringgit per month times
mm.
12. That's like 50, 60 ringgit per year per person, right? Now think about car, right? One used car is easily what 30, anywhere between 30 to 40,000 ringgit, right? That's a very big GMV, right? Now times by the number of cars that being sold in the market.
Transacting. Yeah,
Exactly, that comes to in a billion, right? I would never
yeah.
thought of that. So it just happened to me that I think, yeah, I mean, you if you want to find an idea to become a $1 billion company, hundred of million of dollars company selling of revenue or GMV per year, these are the things, right?
Mm.
Maybe house is another one of them. Car, you know, stuff like that. So these guys were they started very early. So yeah, now they acquire 19.9% of ICA. ICA, as you know, there is a listed company in
Australian
Australia.
company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a Australian company. So they acquired. So that's one of the ways for them to enter new market. So that's the reason why they bought ICA, and of course in preparation for them to go for IPO later.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, back. I just want to go back again to this Kasem because it connects with everything else that you said that 5 years
Mhm,
ago, and then
mhm.
they looked at it and then they said, okay, this is an industry ready for disruption.
Yep.
And then you talked about the pie when the economy expands, it forms a crack, and
Mhm,
entrepreneurs see the crack, and then they
yep.
say, this is the gap that I can fill.
Mhm,
So the pandemic would have opened up huge opportunities for disruption, actually, right?
mhm,
Many
mhm,
industries that were operating before the
mhm,
pandemic, and then now with the pandemic, so many changes has happened. That should open
mhm.
up so many opportunities for disruption, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what's your advice to startups, right? students. I mean, here, so if you look at scaling Mount Everest, what we are doing is basically getting entrepreneurs to base camp.
Right.
What you do with your VC funding is to take them help them scale the Mount Everest to become billion-dollar companies. But even to get to base camp, as you say, 90% of the startups fail,
Yep.
and almost the remaining 10% fail in the first year as well. So
Yeah.
now, how do you how do you not become the statistic from the word go?
I think to be very realistic, right? That's very difficult to beat statistics, right? If the
Yeah.
statistics say is 90% failure rate, that's what it is. No, that is valid every year. We can hope that number comes down, right? But statistics is very difficult to beat. So I think this is the fact that founders have to accept. Of course, the top 10% will make it, right? So the trick is then how you want to make sure that you are at the top 10%.
So
Coming back to
Jay,
your yeah
yeah.
yeah
Go on. You finish
yeah.
because that's an interesting question. I would like to ask a question pushing that.
Okay, Tabu, write down first before I forget also on mine. So
I also
coming
will
back.
forget. With our white hair, we forget, no?
Eventually, both of us forget.
Yeah, actually, we do
Yeah.
always forget.
So, yeah. Coming. You remember Grab, right?
Yeah.
2012, 2013, right? If you remember, I just joined MAVCAP at that time, 2011. At that time, there were three companies in the ride-hailing business.
Mm.
My taxi is one of them, and the other two. The one by another Rocket Internet. I can't remember the name, and there's another one as well. So these are basically the same thing. You just want
Yeah.
to get a cab, and the cab will come to you, right? That's how it all started. There are three of them. But how that idea came about is the founder of Grab at the time, he he said that it's very difficult to get taxi. So he was
Yeah.
thinking, why not just create an app, and I install an app and I click on it, and then the taxi comes to me, right? It's not that difficult, right? That's how it started. And about the same time, if you remember, Uber just came to the market, right? Lyft like after that. And but the Malaysian market wasn't ready for that, to have a private car driving you, right? Behaving like a taxi, right? So he started off his taxi, right? And that's how it started because
He started out my taxi, right?
my taxi, yeah. So he started with
Yeah.
just that app calling taxi, come to you, pick you up at home, right? Um, because he find it his idea started off because there's a pain that he needs to be solved. That pain is there's no taxi. I have to call. I have to remember a certain number, right? And chances are that call is not picked up. And when it picked up, and it's very with so many things, right? Why not just make it in the form of an app, and then you just place an order, and the taxi will come and pick you up at home. So that's a very powerful a solution to the people back then. The same thing with custom. So you're coming back to your question, Dash, for founders who want to become successful, the top 10% there, right? You must go out and active. You must feel the problem yourself. So in your daily life, right, things that you've come across, and you say that why is it so difficult to do this? Why is it so difficult to do that? That is actually a problem for you to solve, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way for people to successfully to even convince you, okay, you have to solve this, solve that, because you yourself don't face it yourself. So very difficult for you to solve. So my advice is, whatever that you face on that day or that time, that's the idea for you to start up with.
So JB, I'm not going to let you go off this easily. I'm going to push this
Please.
boundaries a little bit.
Right.
So now that you started by saying, I mean, the topic is that how is this a good time to start? And you said, you answered that so beautifully and said, we could ask that question anytime, and the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's the best answer I've ever gotten in so many interviews I've done. So amazing. And then at the end of it, you go and say something completely the opposite. To say 90% startups fail and then 10% fail within the first year. Now there is two things. One is to start now, and one is to
Right.
fail. So, and how do you get to the top 10%? I think there is some magic here, which I want to test it with you. When a startup fails, it does not mean the entrepreneur has failed. I personally believe, I think
Correct.
the failure can come, but the entrepreneur can come back and
Yes.
do another startup. So number of failures increases the potential and possibility of the entrepreneur becoming successful subsequently.
Yep.
Right? So to fail and to fail small and to
Yep.
fail cheap, it's okay, but is to come back and start. So the reason an entrepreneur or the reason a young student should get into a startup is so that he fails sufficiently quick enough to learn the trick of the trade to increase the probability of success. Am I right?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. You know, yeah, you mentioned about 90% who fail, right? Again, you have to things are dynamic, right? That
Yeah.
90% hole that you create, that is
Yeah.
actually 19% hole that you have to fill in as well, right?
Yes.
So again, at any one time, because things are so dynamic, that hole still kept getting filled up, right, by the new
That's
guy,
right.
right? Yeah. So
So,
that's
so
what
the
you
new
mean.
guy. So say the new guy is, say his name is Alvin for discussion purposes, and he starts a project in university and he launches something, and then it goes to a state, and then it fails. That's fine, but Alvin will come back and do another startup, which has a higher chance of getting angel funding, and then by the time
Right.
he is 20 something, that's when
Right.
he becomes really. So the idea is to keep at it and keep
Yep.
doing it until you have what we call the chops
Yep.
to build
Yeah.
something or become part of something. Isn't that what venture capitalists look at when you fund? The character, you said,
Exactly.
the resilience,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. The resilience. I mentioned this in one of the 9 main factors, right? The character of
yeah,
the founders. Eric has failed in previous.
the nine original sins or whatever deadly sins.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know. Yeah. So Eric has failed before Kasam, and
right,
he
right,
tried new models. So again, it's something that we all have to learn. Yeah, you mentioned about VC investing in these companies. Yeah, if you fail, doesn't mean that the VC will treat you as no, you have failed before, you're gonna fail again. No, it's never been the case. We have
yeah,
funded people who have failed before. I mean, Eric is exactly the person that we funded. There are many others as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So don't treat it like if you fail, I say, oh no, I'm gonna forget, and I'll never get funded by a VC. No,
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. Yeah.
JB, I really don't know. Please, I think we should have the questions. I don't know why time is flying so fast. We
Mhm.
are supposed to be from 2:30 to 3:45. The time is
Oh,
already
oops.
run so fast. We have got
Okay.
so little time. There's a question.
Okay.
I have a question that I hope you can share with us. Currently,
Okay.
how do you maintain the business relationship via online platform? Any suggestions, strategies? Initiate, maintain business with current or potential with the use of virtual platform. What will be the main challenges that you faced? One long question. Winnie Chan, thank you so much for the question.
Sorry, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Can you see? Can you see the question?
Oh, no, hold
I
on,
have
no,
a
no, no.
few. I have a few
What was it?
questions that I hope you can share with us. Okay, let's
Okay.
take it one by one. In the current
Okay.
situation, how do you maintain the business relationship via online platform? I don't know.
I have a question. In the current situation, how do you maintain business relationship via online? Okay. And number two, suggestion strategy that we practice. Oh, this is a very long question. Yeah, you're right. I just saw this.
Many wrong questions
Um,
and not real relevant to the yeah, but it's okay.
yeah, you know what? I think this question is very relevant uh, to a founder. I
Yeah,
am from VC. Right? I I fund the founder. They are the one actually have a direct relationship with the
Yeah,
customers. Maybe in
yeah,
the next program, Dash, you're inviting a founder, then you can bring up discussion again.
that's right. I think founders in Enterprise Wednesday, they were coming in, and
Yeah.
that's how they do it.
Yeah. Okay, another question, right? One whether traditional business like furniture maker is still sexy business to invest. I got a question. Okay. Well, okay. The one thing that people think about VC, okay, thing about VC
Good
is,
question. Mm.
yeah, why VC is there in the first place. If you really think about it, right, VC basically started off in the Silicon Valley 50, 60 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
not long after the Second World War,
The
and
first one, the Fairchild.
yeah, Fairchild. It started off from there, right? No, you know, um, eventually, yes, developed to where we are now. They started to invest in, stuff like, this hardware, right? Producing chips and stuff like that. Because they saw from the very beginning that, things are going to get small. Integrated circuits is going to be driving automation, stuff like that. They can see that,
Yeah,
so they were helping people to design chips and all that, right? Um, Along the line after that, and then people will see, some of these people were first funder of these companies, creating a group, call them a venture capital. They put money, their own money, as well as they raise money from other people to to invest in these businesses, right? Because they see that the growth is going to be very fast, and if you put money into it, chances are your value investment will go up fast as well. Um, so that business obviously started off in the electronics space. But if you talk about furniture, VC invests in fast growth business. And the reason behind it is because VC has a fund life, specific fund life. We have 10 years only. When we take money from you, I must deploy that capital within the first 4 years. The faster, in fact, the better. And I must make sure that that the business I invested, I can exit, sell it, and I return back the money to the people who give the money. So I only have 6 years, 4, 5 years after that, 6 years max to return back, grow the business, and exit as well. So because of that, and you must also remember that in VC, 60 to 80% failure is also very, very normal, right?
mm,
So you have anywhere between 20 to 40% of your portfolio performing, and to cover the losses of your fund. So that will put another pressure for VC to invest in high growth businesses or companies. So if selling furniture is high growth, yeah, they will invest in your company. If selling furniture is not high growth, it's not scalable enough, then maybe VC is not relevant for funding in that kind of business, right?
I think those kind of business will probably be organically growing because they're very
Yeah.
much
Yep.
lifestyle and SME kind of businesses.
Yep.
Yeah, not high growth
Yep.
businesses.
Yep.
What is the
Yep.
one popular entrepreneurial advice do you disagree with, by Anusha Sudhandaran? I think that's a very nice question. I love this kind of questions.
Entrepreneurial advice that you disagree with.
Yeah.
This is coming from the founder, or um,
No, I mean, generally speaking, even any advice that people giving that you
mhm.
disagree with. Yeah.
A lot of people were saying, I sometimes also ask this. I ask this. It's okay to fail, right? People, you and I, we've heard it so many times. It's okay to fail, go up, and all that. But fail is very painful. Failure is very painful. Um, if you listen to online courses and all this, yeah, go ahead and fail, and you will come back up as a strong as a strong founder, as a strong person after that. But look, again, this is where statistics come back again. You know, out of the 100 that who fail, and it's not 100 are going to come back again. There are people, only certain percentage of that will continue to march on, right? So I want to be realistic here. This is why character is very important. If you have failed, chances are you still has a 50-50 chance to continue or to just forget about it and do something else totally different. So that credo saying that failure will make you a stronger person, it is true to a certain people who has certain character, right? So this is where self-discovery is important as well. As a founder, are you that type of person? Exactly, that's a person who will get funded the next round when you rise again. Okay.
I like to take Anusha's question as well, but what you're saying, failure, but in a sense that, there is a school of thought that say keep failures small so failures don't be painful. Then failure becomes equals to learning. But failure only becomes a tragic loss when, you don't learn along the process. And a lot of the time, I find people think of pivot as a surprise. Oh my God, I'm going to do this first pivot. But actually, pivot is happening all the time as you're listening to
Yeah.
customers, and you're constantly failing, learning, right? And how do you handle stress and problems? What advice would you provide someone who wants to? Okay. Yeah.
This is very important. I think there's so many things that cause stress and problems, right? No matter whether you work for a bank or you're an entrepreneur, there's always stress of different
Yeah.
types, right? Everyone faces stress. If you don't face stress in the office, you'll face stress at home. How do you handle that? I think everyone has their own style, but if you relating to a founder, you reduce stress a lot if you if you uh, you operate in the best, you deliver as best as you can. I mean, as a funder, I would see, if you BS too much, you're not gonna get my trust. I'm not gonna fund you again the next round. So that could be stressful to the
Right.
guy who, when the time comes, you need money, and suddenly you cannot get it from me, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you are the VC. You asked, we need to know how to fund ideas and what scalability means and all that.
Yeah.
So JB, it's time is running out. We have
Okay.
2 minutes more, and we haven't
Okay.
really made full use of you. We need to have a return of the Jedi or return of the JB to come back
Empire
to
Strikes
part
Back
two.
kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back.
So, and Empire Strikes Back. We want you to come back for another one.
Sure.
So there should be give the opportunity for startups to feel relevant for their ventures in their own residing countries. Yes, that's right. We also have students from various part of countries as well, so that should give us a very good, Haslina.
Good.
So I regret that time is running out and we don't
Yeah.
have much time to. I've got another 6-7 questions to ask you. Very
You can send me.
insightful.
I can try to answer.
No. We want you back here if that's okay.
Oh,
Give us another day,
okay.
and we need to
Okay.
talk more.
Sure.
Because we are going into the accelerator, we are going to the venture building. I think it's important for students to know what kind of ventures do VCs fund, and what,
Okay.
even if you don't fund, right? What kind of uh, what are the problems that you said scalable, and of course we know as people in the ecosystem, but it's always nice to hear it from someone who
Yeah.
has got the pipeline to the money.
Right.
Just before you go, JB, I would like to ask you, um, if you have a billboard on the highway that hundreds and hundreds of cars are going, and you want to say something that everyone aspiring entrepreneurs will hear, what would that be?
You
That
know,
one advice or one kick-ass advice that you want to give.
I never thought of that. you know, I think this is required for from all of us, whether you're entrepreneur or not, right?
Yeah,
Be truthful to yourself. I think I've met a lot of entrepreneurs. You know, every time they come to pitch, you know, some tend to over representing themselves now. And
that's
you
right.
know, and you presenting to people who have heard 300 presentations before that too, you know,
Presentations.
and
Yes.
you know, we learn, and as a person I also learn, right? And I can sense what is sort of, you know, real and
Real.
what is not. So yeah, so again, whether you're entrepreneur or not, doesn't matter. In whatever thing that you do, you're an employee, you're an employer, or you're an entrepreneur, be truthful to yourself, you know.
Beautiful.
um
Beautiful.
yeah, and
So
that's
as they
how you are
say,
measured as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
that's right. As they say, entrepreneurs are truth seekers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Just to
Yep.
take a minute, I know this is not my platform, but Anusha's question doesn't let me go. One advice that I don't subscribe to is look for your passion. I don't think you
Oh,
got to sit around waiting for your passion. I think you should
yeah.
just do it, and in doing it, you will find things that will be drawn. So, like they say, you can't find these things. You can't find yourself. Your true self emerges as you
Mm-hmm.
do. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my 2 cents to Anusha. And JB, thank you so much for joining us. It
Thank
was
you.
really, really, I'm sincerely saying, a powerful set of decks. Great wise words. I want you back here, or if possible, we would like to very humbly invite you.
Inshallah.
And my regards to the wife, and
Sure.
also to the family, and have a good weekend that is coming up. And to those of
Right.
you who are here, I think that we've got 100 over participants who are watching live. You will be shown a QR code, and then a certificate will be sent to you. And please uh, ask your friends to watch JB's statistics, and whatever he showed is really powerful. Watch the videos and have a lovely weekend.
All right.
Thank you so much, JB.
Thank you.
Always
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
Dash.
Always a pleasure to have you. Talk to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, APU as well. All right.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye.